Welcome my Super Students YouTube channel followers. Today we will see the biology grade 10 unit 2 about plants part 2. So let's get start the section. Dear students, today we are going to see about reproduction in plants, which is 2.4, and also the subtitle is 2.4.1 reproductive structure in life cycle of non-flowering plants, and also 2.4.2 reproductive structure in life cycle of flowering plants, and also the third one, which is 2.4.3, which is pollination. So let's get start the section. When we come to reproduction in plants, or when we say reproduction in plants, first, reproduction means it is the one mechanism to perpetuate the species, or the one mechanism to continue their survival. So reproduction in plants, the plants are use a reproduction mechanism in order to perpetuate or in order to continue their survival of their species. So in order to continue their survival ability or in order to perpetuate their species, they have a different reproductive mechanism such as reproductive structure or life cycle of in life cycle. So in this non-flowering plants there is a reproductive structure and also life cycle. Those non-flowering plants have their reproductive structure in life cycle like that of non-flowering plants. The flowering plants have also their own reproductive structure and also life cycle. So when we come to those non-flowering plants, first, those non-flowering plants are the plants that does not have a flower. እነዚህ ፕላንቶች ምንም አይነት ፍላወር ወይም ምንም አይነት አበባ የሌላቸው አይነት ፕላንት ናቸው። So the common example or the typical example of this non-flowering plants is gymnosperm. So under this gymnosperm category, there are such as the conifers and also zagwa. So the common gymnosperm trees in Ethiopia have a reproductive structure which is male and female cone, because gymnosperms are reproduced by their cones. Gymnosperms, they does not have a flower, but they have a cone, so they perpetuate their species by the reproductive organ, which is cones. So the gymnosperms have the male and female cones. So the typical example of gymnosperms are like pine trees and also conifers and also zagwa, as the picture depicted below. So the gymnosperms have their own reproductive structure. The reproductive structure of gymnosperm is cone. So attention በሚል ላይ there is a clear explanation about conifers. It says most conifers have a narrow needle-shaped leaves with thick cuticle. ምን ይላል? እነዚህ ኮኒፈሮች የሚባሉ ናረው የሆነ ወይም ነድል ሼፕድ መርፌ አይነት የሆነ እና ጠባብ የሆነ ቅጠል አላቸው ይላል። እንደዚሁም ቲክ የሆነ cuticle is a layer that covers the leaf and protects the leaf from different dangers. Not only dangers, but it also preserves the water for later use. ኋላን ዋተርን ኋላን ለመጠቀም ዋተርን ምን ያደርጋል? ፕሪዘርቭ ያደርጋል ማለት ነው። ኩቲክሉ ኢት diminish the evaporation or the transpiration process, so which enables them to live in extremely cold and hot environment. Because they can survive in hot environment, these survival abilities because of the thick cuticle and the narrow or needle-shaped leaf. And also they are evergreen because they have enough water in their leaves, and they do not shed their leaves both in winter and summer. A feature which makes them to be ornamental plants and decorating parks and recreational areas and streets in town and big cities. Sperms are essential because of their ornamental value in a recreational areas such as malls and also different places, and also they have their own economical value. So እነዚህ gymnospermoች, they are essential and they are vital in our country in economical way. So in this there is a field of visit. It's generally about the Zagwa and also it's about Zagwa and Jennifer. So specifically there is a scientific name which is Podocarpus phylactus for Zagwa and also Juniperus procera for Jennifer. In the section there is a scientific name. This is a scientific name which is Podocarpus phylactus for Zagwa and also Juniperus procera for Jennifer. So let's go to the next section. After the field visit and the preparation of the field report, Yilal, you are now able to distinguish and describe gymnosperms. So in this lesson we will see about the life cycle of gymnosperms by using a typical example which is pine tree as a representative or as a typical representative of conifers as well as gymnosperms. So as shown in the figure 2.8, the life cycle of a pine tree representing gymnosperms. It says the pine tree has male and female cones. The gymnosperms are reproduced by cones, and thus these cones have a male and female part on one plant. So the gymnosperms has its own male and female cones in one plant. Initially, pollen is transferred from male cone to the female cone. We are talking about the pollination in one plant. So the pollen is transferred from the male cone to the female cone because in the pollination mechanism there is a male part and also there is a female part. So this pollination is occurred in a self-pollination way in the gymnosperms. So the pollen is transferred from the male cone to the female cone, and this process is known as pollination and occurs with the help of wind. This pollination mechanism is performed by the help of wind because the wind is used in pollination of the light objects. Following pollination, the pollen completes its germination and produces the male gamete inside the female cone. Generally, we are talking about pollination or specifically a self-pollination in gymnosperms. So this pollination mechanism is essential for these plants in order to survive or in order to perpetuate their species. So this pollination or ርክበብናኝ የሚሉት ነገር is happened by the transferring of a male gamete into the female gamete in one plant for gymnosperms. So because of the pollination, the pollen completes its germination and produces a male gamete inside what? Inside the female cone. So the female gamete is also produced in the female cone within the cone. Here, the male and female gametes are fused. After the production of the male and the female gamete within the cone, there is a fusion, or there is a combination, or there is a unite of male and female gametes in order to form or in order to produce a zygote. So this zygote is formed by the combination of the male and female gametes, or by the fusion of male and female gametes within those gymnosperms. This process is known as, or the process which zygote is produced or zygote is formed, is known as fertilization. So fertilization is the process which zygote is produced. So the fertilization comes because of the fusion of male and female gametes. So this zygote is develops into the seed embryo. The zygote develops into what? Into the seed embryo. Inside what? Inside the female cone. After the seed is matured, or after the seed becomes adult or matured, it is liberated upon drying and opening of the female cone. So it becomes delivered, or it disperses. The seed disperses out of the plant ማለት ነው. Then the seed will be dispersed or scattered away from what? The parent plant and germinates into a seedling or a young pine plant. አዲስ የሆነ ፓይን ፕላንትን ወይም ሲድ ላይንግን መብቀል ወይም ግሮ ማድረግ ይጀምራል ማለት ነው. So upon getting favorable conditions, finally the young plant grows and develops into mature plant with female and male cones, because the gymnosperms has their own male and female gametes in one plant, and the reproductive cycle of the pine trees is complete. So there is one idea in this section which is that says favorable condition. What's favorable condition? The seed, in order to form a seedling, it needs a favorable condition. What are the favorable conditions? This favorable condition explains getting of air, getting of what? Air, and also temperature, and also light. ብርሃን, temperature, and also air. So in order to get a favorable condition, the seed must fulfill air, light, and also moisture or water. Unless it does not grow to, or it does not start a seedling, or it does not grow to adult plants. So about pollination, we will discuss detailedly in the next section. That's why I roughly go on this section. So in this picture there is some depicted information about the life cycle of a pine tree, and representing the gymnosperms, how they grow, and how they also reproduce. That's good. So let's go to the next section, which is about the reproductive structure and life cycle of flowering plants, and we will comprehend, or we will summarize at the end of the video. So when we come to the reproductive structure and life cycle of flowering plants, እነዚህ አበባ ያላቸውን ፕላንቶች, the flowering plants has a flower, and their reproductive or their sexual reproductive organ is what? A flower. So a flower is a reproductive organ, a sexual reproductive organ of what? Angiosperms. እነዚህ አበባ ያላቸው ፕላንቶች. So these gymnosperms are the plants with seeds, not only seeds, but the seeds of angiosperm is covered by what? By fruit. The seed of the angiosperm is covered by what? By fruit. But in gymnosperm there is no fruit. There is no fruit. But there is no fruit. So the opposition in angiosperm and in gymnosperms is that in angiosperm there is a seed, and also the seed is covered by what? By fruit. But in gymnosperm there is a seed, but the seed is not covered by fruit. The seed in gymnosperm is what? Is naked and bare. In this flower there are different floral parts, namely sepal, petal, stamen, and also pistil. So we will see these parts and their function clearly. So first, what is sepal? Sepal is known as calycus or sepal. It is usually what? Green leaf-like structure, and its function is protecting the lower part of a female and male parts. So the sepal protects the male and female parts. Protects the male and what? Female parts. So it's a green leaf-like structure, and its function is protecting. So when we come to petal or corolla, it is mostly brightly colored and attracts pollinating agents like insects. So it is what? It is a bright colored organ, or a bright colored part of the flower, and it attracts pollinating agents like what? Insects, in order to perform a pollination. So pollination undergoes ለማድረግ it attracts ወይም it attracts what? Insects. ኢንሴክት ምን ያደርጋል? ይስባል ማለት ነው። ወደ ፍላወሩን ምን ያደርጋል? አትራክት ያደርጋል። But when we come to stamen, it is a male part of the flower. So when we come to a stamen or androecium, it is a male part and consisting of a filament and bilobed anther. So it has a filament and also a bilobed anther. So generally, stamen is what? Is equal to anther plus what? Filament. Anther plus what? Filament. Anther plus filament. Anther plus what? Filament. So the stamen contains a filament and also an anther. We will see in the picture below. And also when we come to pistil or gymnasium or carpel, it is a female part and consisting of the ovary with what? A pistil contains what? An ovary with what? With ovary, style, and also a stigma. So this pistil has its own ovary, ovule, style, and also a stigma. እነዚህ ስታይል የሚባል ቅጥ የሚባል በአማርኛ ቅጥ የሚባል ነው። ስቲግማም ኦቫሪ and also ovary ወይም ovium ገንሰት የሚባል. So the parts are included under the pistil. So the pistil contains an ovary, an ovule, style, and also a stigma. The function of this parts of the flower are this. So it says the flower has 4 floral parts, namely sepal, petal, stamen, and also pistil, and also those 4 parts have their own specific function. The sepal protecting, the petal attracting pollinating agents, and also the stamen, it serves as a male part by consisting a filament and also an anther. And also the pistil, it is a female part and it consists an ovary, ovule, style, and also a stigma. So before going to the next section, there is a highly important and highly essential note which says attention. So it says a complete flower has 4 floral parts. So we are talking about a complete flower, and next we'll talk about a perfect flower. So what's complete flower and what's perfect flower, and what is their difference? And when we say a a flower is complete and when we say a flower is incomplete, and when we say a flower is perfect and when we say a flower is imperfect. So in order to say a flower is complete, it must contain, not should, it must contain what? The four floral parts. እነዚህ አራት floral parts ማጠቃለል አለበት. It must contain the four floral parts which are sepal, petal, stamen and also pistil in order to say it is a complete flower. It is called incomplete flower if it does not have any one of the floral parts. If one of these floral parts is not included or excluded, so this flower is known as incomplete flower. So in order to say a flower is complete flower, it must contain those four floral parts which are sepal, petal, stamen and also pistil. Unless and otherwise, it is an incomplete flower because of not including one of these four floral parts. But when we come to perfect flower, or in order to say a flower is perfect, it must contain the stamen and also the pistil, which are the male and female parts of the flower. So in order to say a flower is perfect, it must contain a stamen and a pistil. It must contain both stamen and pistil. Not only stamen or pistil, or not only pistil or stamen. So it must contain both those parts. If a flower does not have either stamen or pistil, it is known as imperfect flower. ከሁለታችም አንዱ ከሌለ is imperfect flower. It's either pistillated or staminated. So pistillated means it has a pistil but it does not have a stamen. When we say it is a staminated, it has a stamen but it does not have a pistil. So when we say about this flowers completeness and their perfection, it is very very essential and it is most probably it has a high probability to be included in a national exam. So when we say a complete flower must contain these four floral parts, unless it is not complete flower, but it is what? Incomplete flower. But in order to say a perfect flower, it must contain a stamen and also what? Pistil. A stamen and also pistil. If one of this stamen or pistil is not included, it is what? Imperfect flower. Self-test. It says an imperfect flower is incomplete flower. An imperfect flower is what? Incomplete flower. First, what does imperfect flower mean? So if we say the flower is imperfect flower, it does not contain whether a stamen or what? A pistil. Whether a stamen or a pistil. So in order to say the flower is imperfect flower, it must exclude a stamen or a pistil. ከስቴመን ወይም ከፒስትል አንዱ ከጎደለ ወይም include ካልተደረገ it is imperfect flower. So if it is imperfect flower, it is incomplete flower because the stamen and pistil are what? One of these four floral parts. Stamen is one of the four floral parts and also the pistil is one of those four floral parts. እነዚህ ስቴመን እና ፒስትል የሚባሉ ከፎር ፍሎራል ፓርቶች ላይ የሚጠቃለሉ ስለሆኑ if the stamen is not included, it is imperfect, or if the pistil is not included, it is imperfect, but it also an incomplete flower because the stamen and pistil are what? An incomplete flower. The stamen and pistil are what? An incomplete flower. But ይላል an incomplete flower may or may not be imperfect. Because imperfect ለማለት stamen ወይም pistil መጉደል አለበት. Pistil ወይም stamen ከጎደለ it is incomplete. But incomplete flower ለማለት ግን ከፎር ፍሎራል ፓርቶች አንዱ መጉደል አለበት። ወይም ፔታል ወይም ሴፓል ወይም ስቴመን ወይም ፒስትል. For example, it says may or may not. Why does it say may or may not? Because it's not necessarily. If the flower is imperfect, it is incomplete. If it is imperfect, it's incomplete. But if it is incomplete, we may or may not say it is imperfect. So, if a flower is incomplete, it can be perfect or it can be imperfect. Why? For example, it is incomplete because of not including a petal. ፔታልን ኢንክሉድ ባለማድረጉ ፔታል ኢንክሉድ ባለማድረጉ ኢንኮምፕሊት ይባላል። ግን ኢምፐርፌክት ማለት አንችልም። Because in order to say the flower is imperfect, it must unfulfill the stamen or the pistil, not the sepal or the petal. So, if it is imperfect, it is incomplete. If it is incomplete, it may or may not have imperfect. So that if it is incomplete, it may or may not be an imperfect flower. For example, the second example, in order to say the flower is incomplete, it can unfulfill or it can exclude a stamen. So, if the flower is not include a stamen, it is incomplete, and also it is what? Imperfect. It is incomplete and also it is imperfect. So, ቀላል ይመስለኛል ግን it is very essential and very vital part of this unit. So when we come to this picture, it depicts about the female and male parts and also sepal, receptacles, peduncle. So there is a petal which protects. There is a petal which is its function is to attract an insect or pollinating agents. There is also a receptacle and also peduncles that guide for the flower, and also sepal which protects the flower, male and female parts. There is a male part which is anther and also filament. Filament is the trail-like structure and that carries the anther. And also the anther is covered by what? By pollen. The anther is covered by what? By pollen. Shortly, stamen is equal to anther plus what? Stamen is equal to anther plus filament. Stamen is the whole male part. የሜል ፓርቱን በሙሉ ምን ይባላል? ስቴመን ይባላል። ግን within this stamen there is an anther and also there is a filament. The filament's function is to carry the anther. But the anther is one of the parts of the stamen and it is covered by what? By pollen. By pollen. And within this pollen or within this anther there are pollen grains. So those pollen grains are the very very essential and vital in order to undergo a pollination mechanism. ወይም pollen grain means ጽጌ ብናኝ የሚባል ማለት ነው። ጽጌ ብናኝ ወይም pollen grain እንለዋለን። When we come to the female part, there is epistolium carpel. It contains stigma, style, ovary, ovule, and also egg. The style serves as the filament in the male part. When we say style in female part, when we say style in female part, in male part it is filament. So the filament and the style are what? Analogous parts. In female part, the tree-like structure that carries for the female part is style, and in the male part there is a filament. So the filament and also style are similar and analogous parts. So let's continue to the next section. This section የተረዳችሁ ይመስለኛል። So generally you must pay attention on this section, and let's go to the next section, which is pollination, and we will describe it briefly and shortly. So pollination, what's pollination? First, pollination means ርክበ ብናኝ የሚባል ነው። ፖሊኔሽን ሚንስ ርክበ ብናኝ የሚባል በአማርኛ ርክበ ብናኝ የምንለው ነው። So pollination, it is a transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a stamen, So ያን ፖሊኔሽን ወይም ርክበ ብናኝ የምንለው ነገር this is a transfer of pollen grain. ጽጌ ብናኝ pollen grain means ጽጌ ብናኝ. So this is the transfer of pollen grain from the anther of the stamen, because the stamen contains an anther and also a pollen grain, to the stigma of the pistil. Stigma is the female part, but pollen grain is what? The male part. So the male part goes to the female part. The male part goes to what? To the female part. So the transfer can be between what? The stamen and pistil on one flower, or between flower on one plant. It says, first we must clarify the pollination classification. So pollination is classified into two parts: self and also cross. Self means within one plant, cross means within different or with different plants, across different plants. So the pollination can be self-pollination within one plant, or cross-pollination or trans-pollination, or with two or above different plants. So self-pollination is a pollination mechanism, or a transfer of pollen grain from the stamen to the stigma of the pistil within one plant or within one flower. It can be within one plant or it can be within one flower. So the self-pollination can be within one flower or within one plant. If we say within one flower, it is between the stamen and pistil. When we say it is between one plant, between one flower and the other flower in one plant. When we come to cross-pollination, it is between two flowers on different plants, but it is on one plant. Self-pollination is on one plant, but cross-pollination is on what? On different plants. So pollination requires a pollinating agent. ርክበ ብናኙ ምን ያስፈልገዋል? ኤጀንት ያስፈልገዋል ወይም ተላላኪ ያስፈልገዋል ማለት ነው። such as what? Insects and also winds. There is a strong relationship between the nature of the flower and also the pollinating agent. በፍላወር ተፈጥሮና በፖሊኔቲንግ ኤጀንቱ ላይ ትልቅ ርክብ አለ። What is that? So I will clarify this idea. There are different pollinating agents, such as it can be insect or it can be wind. So when does the flower use as pollinating agent? for wind and also for insect is we must know. So the wind is used in light objects, in light objects, but the insects are used in heavy objects. Heavy objects. So the wind is, that's why the book says there is a strong relationship between what? The nature of the flower, በፍላወሩ ተፈጥሮና በፖሊኔቲንግ ኤጀንቱ there is a strong relationship because the plants are used the wind as pollinating agent when the nature of the flower is light ወይም ቀላል ሲሆን ማለት ነው. And they use an insect when it becomes heavy. When the nature of the flower is heavy or ከባድ ከሆነ they use an insect, but when the nature of the flower is light ወይም ቀላል ከሆነ they use what? Wind. That's why there is a strong relationship between what? The nature of the flower and the pollinating agent. So following pollination, if flowering plants pass through distinct stages, the pollination has its own stages or የራሱ የቻለ የተለያዩ ስቴፖች አሉ እንደማለት ነው. So first there is what? Transfer. There is a transfer of pollen grain from the stamen to the stigma of the pistil. Then after the pollen grain goes to the stigma, and attaches with the stigma, then it forms what? A pollen tube. So this pollen grain landing on the stigma will form what? A pollen tube that grow down in the style. A style is what? A female part of the flower. So we are talking about the pollen tube formation. So this pollen tube formation is happened by the pollen grains landing on the stigma. This pollen tube formation comes after the transferring of pollen grains from the stamen to the stigma of the pistil, and this pollen tube formation is the second stage of the pollination. So the first stage of pollination is the transfer of the pollen grain from the stamen to the stigma of the pistil. Then the second stage is the formation of the pollen tube. So the pollen tube is formed after the pollen grain is landing on the stigma. So this landing causes to form a pollen tube that goes down in the style and form the male gametes as it approaches the ovule. So the ovule is found in the flower, which is the female part of the flower. Here is the ovule and also the ovary, and there is a style. So the pollen grain comes first and attached with this stigma. Then after attaching with the stigma, then it forms the pollen tube that grows downward. And after that, there is a production of male gamete within the ovule. As it approaches to the ovule, there is what? There is a production of male gamete. So the next stage is, or the third stage is fertilization. So this fertilization happens by the union of male gamete and also a female gamete, and this occurring in the ovule of the ovary. So the ovule is found within the ovary, and this fertilization was happened or undergoes in the ovary, within the ovary, which is in the specific place in ovule. So generally the fertilization is what? The fertilization is the union of male and female gametes. So as a result of this combination or as a result of this fusion gives us a zygote. So thus this zygote is developed into a seed embryo. So fertilization is a union of male and female gamete, and this combination gives us a zygote, and this zygote is developed into what? Into the seed embryo. Because first there is a fertilization. After a fertilization, it forms a zygote. After formation of a zygote, there is an embryo. After an embryo, there is a seed, or there is an adult. So that this fertilization gives us a seed embryo, and the seed embryo is grow to the seed, which is essential and vital for growing and perpetuating their growth for those plants. So the next section is about seed and fruit formation, how the seeds and fruits are formed. ዘር ወይም ፍሬ እንዴት ፎርም ይደረጋል የሚል ነገር ነው። So how the seed and fruit are formed የሚል ነገር after fertilization there is a formation of seed embryo. So the seed comes from the seed embryo. So the seed embryo is developed into this seed embryo is developed into what? Into seed. Because this fertilization is happened in what? In the ovule, or in the ovule that covered with ovary. So generally there is a vital concept that says an ovule is grow to or mature to seed. Mature to what? To seed. But an ovary is mature to fruit. The fruit is a cover of a seed, and also the ovary is a cover of what? The ovule. So the ovule develops into what? Into seed, but the ovary is developed into fruit. That's the basic and essential concept. So this seed is what? A mature ovule, while the fruit is a matured ovary. I will repeat. This seed is a matured ovule, while a fruit is a matured ovary. So this is essential. And when we come to seed dispersal mechanism, seed dispersal or seed scattering or seed disseminating method. So to disperse means to disseminate or to scatter. So how plants are disperse their seeds, or how plants are disperse their or scatter their seed in order to reproduce and in order to be multiplied or in order to be found in different places. So this mechanism of scattering seeds around or away from the parent plant is undergoes or performs by different agents like the pollination, because the seed dispersal mechanism is require an agent like that of the pollination mechanism. So in seed dispersal mechanism there are different agents such as animals, wind, water, and also bursting and different mechanisms. For example, there is a plant which is known as coconut. This plant uses a seed dispersal mechanism of water. So it uses water as what? As seed dispersal or as seed scattering mechanism. Also there are a tumble seed. The tumble seed uses the destroying or cutting of the parental plant, and also the tumble seed uses the cutting of the parental plant. After cutting or after destroying the parental plant rotates and covers different distances and scatter its seed. So there are different ways. Also there are other type of plants that burst their puff and then scatter their seeds. So there are different mechanisms for seed dispersal mechanisms, or the seed dispersal mechanism can use different agents like animals, like winds, waters, and others. So when we come to the next one, which is seed dormancy and seed germination, So what is seed dormancy and what's seed germination? So first, I will explain the word dormant. So dormancy means it is inactiveness. Inactiveness. So dormancy means inactiveness, but germination means seed activeness. So to germinate means to become active. So the difference between dormancy and germination is to become dormant means to sleep, but to germinate means to wake up or to become active. So the fate of seed landing at a certain place of either dormancy or germination. አንድ ሲድ ላንድ ሲደረግ ወይም ሲዘራ ያለው እድል ወይም ፌት ምንድነው? either dormancy or germination ነው ማለት ነው። So a dormant seed is what? Inactive and waiting for what? For favorable conditions in order to what? In order to start germination, because in order to transform from the dormant stage to germination stage, from dormant stage to germination stage, it needs what? The favorable condition. This favorable condition is includes an air, water, and also light. They are essential for germination of a seed. So if there is enough water and nutrients of seed, it break its dormancy and it become seed laying, or it starts its germination and develops into a big plant. So this is the process, or this is the mechanism how they break their dormancy. So these plants break their dormancy by this mechanism. Not only by this mechanisms, favorable conditions are essential in order to break their dormancy and in order to germinate, or in order to start the germination process, which forms a seedling and grows to adult plants. But there are also different hormones that determine for the breaking of dormancy and for germination of the plants. So the hormone that causes a germination or break the seed dormancy and causes to start the seed germination is known as the hormone which is known as Giberlin hormone. So Giberlin hormone is the hormone that causes the germination of the plant. And also another hormone, and also there is another hormone that causes a seed dormancy, or causes the seed to become dormant or inactive, which is known as abscisic acid. So abscisic acid causes the seed to become dormant. So the seed dormancy and seed germination is basically determined by the favorable conditions and also by different hormones. So at the end, let's come to the picture. There is a picture that depicts different processes, how plants, how they fertilize and how they form zygote and embryo and others. So here is the parts of the plants, and also after this there is also that says about fertilization or the fusion of gametes. So after fertilization in this ovule there is formation of zygote. After formation of zygote there is a formation of what? There is a formation of embryo or sporophyte. And also there is a simple fruit formation, seed formation, or the seed formation which develops from ovule, and also germinating seed, and also sporophyte seed linings, and it become at the end an adult plant, or it become a highly matured plant. So that's the concept, or that's the process how they germinate, how they disperse, and others, or the fertilization and pollination process of these plants. So today's section is that. So if you like this video, dear students, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe with your friends. Until the next time, goodbye.